We're joined here this evening with Leonard Dolan. Leonard's been a member of the Tullamore Golf Club for many a year now. Leonard, you might tell us, when did you first join Tullamore Golf Club?
Well, I was joined as a junior at the end of 1957 when I got to 12 years of age. You had to be 12 before you could be a member in those days.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. And what are your earliest memories, please, of the golf club back then?
Well, the golf club back then, you see, first of all, my grandfather would bring us out in the car. And we could be in the car park, but you daren't come into the clubhouse. And if you were lucky, you get a mineral put out through the window.
And did the clubhouse look similar to what it looks like today?
No, what's in the books. It was galvanised, and it had the veranda at the front.
Okay.
And it remained like that, I noticed, until maybe nearly into the 60s.
Oh, I see.
It was quite similar. They did, I recall my father up on the roof painting it, possibly during his captain's year. My mother made curtains for the lounge out there, and we came out with her to help. We were allowed into the clubhouse then to help hang those curtains.
Okay.
That'd be in the
And was
50s.
the car park as big, and was there a professional shop?
Not as big. There was a shop, all right, yeah, the little shop on the corner where John Kelly was in my time. Like, he came in 1950.
I see, okay.
And he was there right through till 94, I think it was.
That's right, that's right. Yeah. And was there a club steward on the premises
Yes,
back then?
Peter Graham and Mrs. Graham. We would have known them that way as Mrs. Graham.
Okay, and what was their function then, please?
Well, he was a steward caterer. Between them, you know, he had an ex-army man.
I see.
And he would have learned his training there.
Okay.
And Mrs. Graham, she was... she would be the person... When I started playing, you see, I was playing with my mother's clubs. So they were in the ladies' locker room. So you'd have to come in and try and get Mrs. Graham to go in and get them for you. And she would. Sometimes she was cross. And I used those. My late brother Tom, he would have my father's clubs. Which, of course, he could easily get out of the locker.
I see.
And we'd cycle out, of course. Yeah. There was no other way of getting here. But the thing I was just thinking about is that the course was, the old first was down here behind us at the other side.
Okay,
and up to what is the practice green now.
By the 15th.
By the 15th tee. And, but there was the tee, and then there was a pathway and through the high grass, and there was a fairway, and the rough was the width of the three-part gang moor.
Gosh.
And after that, it was 2, 3, 4 feet high of grass.
Wow.
So
if you were
it
wild
wasn't
off the
quite
tee,
the same, you know, as is now, where there's so much space now. They want to keep people moving now. But in those days, and golf balls were, you know, precious.
Absolutely.
But that would be my first memory, playing in that.
And were caddies a thing
Yes,
back then?
caddies were a thing then, yes. I don't know whether people like their names mentioned, but I know Billy Galvin caddied for my father. He worked 5.5 days. He had a half day on a Saturday. And they'd come out for the 4-ball on a Saturday, and they'd have their caddies. And you might remember there was this chute down at the first tee, and you put your ball in it. And that was the order in which things were played.
I see. So there's no BRS back then.
No BRS back then. And in the car park, are you fixed up? You know, and yeah, bad. This was how it was very social and just small, but it began to, you know, increase quite quickly. And that's one of the things I could think of. I remember Father McGahey. I remember Jimmy Hanlon, who was president way back out there on the putting green. You know, J.B. Moorhead possibly came a little bit into both eras, but there was a sort of a sudden change. Okay. You know, not a change in the sense that it was new people came in, and you had a whole sort of cohort of new people, say around the 50s. The hospital, Ted Vaughan and Mick Loughran, and the banks, of course, there was always changes in the banks. They came from the banks. And veterinary colleagues, Jock Lyons, Corey Megan, you know, and you start going on like that, and you get a whole cohort of people coming in there.
And you mentioned some of those names. Their wives also would have played golf.
Yes. Virtually all of those, the wives played golf.
Okay, so there was a strong ladies
very strong ladies. And of course, this politically, if like, they came to a stage where they wanted some change. Obviously, from the old days, now give credit to the people who put the course here and built it up. And there were very astute managers as well, which was great.
Okay.
Great secretaries and great treasurers and that.
Okay. And the configuration of the course, I gather, so James Bray, the 5 times British Amateur or British Open champion, he had visited the course in late 1938. And he laid out a routing. And I believe that routing really hadn't changed that much through the 40s, 50s and 60s.
No, it never changed, because when Paddy Merrigan came here in the 90s, he said, won't change the routing. His brief was a 72-power course with do away with the crossings, as many crossings as you have. As you know, we have a number of crossings, but the only one he was able to do away with was by closing the first.
I see.
And making the 7th, 8th. So that was how that was. But the routing between the lovely groves of trees we have.
Okay.
I mean, when I think about it, the groves that are there by the ladies' tea at the 15th, outside here, that beautiful grove of trees, they've hardly changed over that 75 years. Okay,
wow. And who are the big characters in the club, playing wise, first of all, Leonard, at the time? Can you remember?
Well, if you go from, the people that played with Kitty, Jack O'Mara, Kirkpatrick, again, good buddies, and Clara supplied a lot of people coming in here. And of course, then you had the youngsters coming in like Dinny White. Like, there was a caddies competition. I remember getting my father's clubs for Din, and he won that with a 76 gross.
Wow. Okay.
As a youngster, and he was a genius.
Okay. Wow.
With golf and golf clubs, he could play any shot.
Wow. And
Eric O'Brien was a very steady player, but when he came here with his father, who was manager of the Munster and Leinster Bank, as it was then, AIB now.
AIB now, yeah.
He then went on to university, so he wasn't really around for a lot.
I see. And Paul Burke, I mean,
Paul Burke, I played a lot of Burke. I played a lot of golf with Paul Burke. We played a lot together, and but he played through the winter. I went away to school and played no golf through the winter, and didn't until I was quite a lot older. And so you had to stop and start.
So speaking of school, was junior golf popular?
Junior golf was, yes, it was played in the summer. I would have gone swimming. We all went swimming in our outdoor pool there. But then when the golf started, after you were 12, I went to the golf hard, and I ended up, as others did subsequently, as secretary organiser of the junior section.
Okay. And I associate junior golf with school children coming in, we'll say, getting their chips, and so afterwards. What was the food offering in the club at the time? Was there any?
No, I don't think. If you got a mineral, that'd be it, and maybe a bar of chocolate. If you had the money.
Okay.
And the money was very scarce.
So was there any food offering in the golf club?
Not in that way. No.
I see. And when did the food offering begin to emerge?
Well, I mean, that would be more into the 60s, when they revamped. See, again, a lot more people coming in, a lot more need for it.
Okay.
So they did up the clubhouse, and then the catering. There were Morris was here. I can't think of his surname, and there were a number of came after that, and they were into the food, and they were provided.
Okay.
Right.
And did the bar exist throughout the 50s and 60s, or did that come at that time as well? The bar.
But I mean, the bar was the most important thing, like the men's bar, which caused great controversy subsequently. The men's bar was the first thing next to the gents' changing room, men only.
I see.
Absolutely. You had to go through the smoke, to get into the lounge here.
Right.
The general there, what is now the members' bar. It's not even the members' bar is gone, but the first step from the men's bar was to a members' bar, which of course 2 or 3 ladies decided to try and go in once or twice. It was so uncomfortable. No, it remained the men's bar and remained controversial.
Okay.
Until eventually you see there's a gap there now. It'll be well into the 80s.
Okay. And what would you describe as being the biggest change, we'll say, over your life in the golf club, Leonard?
Well, I mean, it has expanded greatly. It was, there were all sorts of good teams and players. Like when Din White was here, you had Brian Malone, who won 7 Scratch Cups in 1 year.
Wow.
Tony Tynan from Monasterevin, and there was the 4th person on that team. I've just forgotten who it was. Along the way, we had Mick O'Connell's brother, John, big hitter, good golfer.
As in the Mick O'Connell, the
Mick
footballer.
O'Connell, the footballer.
Okay,
now,
I see.
the feature was the captain's prize, which was match play in those days.
That's right.
And there was some unbelievable golf played. Like, you're talking about birdie from halved and birdies winning. Din White, Peter McBride, all sorts of people like that. Peter's grandson Paul now is on the professional tour.
That's right.
So it goes down through the. Yeah. So it really was. We had Tom Cleary was here as a teacher, and he was an international, and he was from Fervoy.
Okay.
But he went back down that part of the world fairly soon. But he played here,
Okay. And you were in part. You were on a successful.
I was on the senior cup teams. Would have been played.
And you had some national success yourself, or Leinster success, I gather, hadn't you?
Not as very. We got through, I think, in the junior cup all right to the finals all right, and unfortunately went down 3-2, I think, to Cork.
Oh, I see. Okay.
In the final in Royal Dublin.
Okay.
So I got to play for Offaly as well, but again, it ran to the end of the year. It was later in the year, and I went back playing rugby again. So
I see.
Of course, I didn't play golf, so I had to opt out of that.
And of course, there is a great association between Tullamore Rugby Club and Tullamore Golf Club. We have a number of members who were, joined.
Crossed. We would have had lots of them that played both. And came across and joined from a lot of the Gardaí at the time. They all live away from Tullamore now, but then they were here, and there was great support to the rugby hand to that. Yeah. And
the changes then that occurred with Paddy Merrigan redesigning the course in the mid-90s, how was it, from your perception, how was that received?
Well, it was needed in the sense that it was a lot of Braid's design where the things were sort of relatively flat and the bunkers were relatively, shallow on that. The new balls and golf clubs and everything, they just overcome it. Okay. And people wanted to change, but change is always difficult. And Paddy Merrigan, he put up his AutoCAD, this new modern computerised thing, drawings out in the corridor out there for 2 weeks before the AGM, special EGM.
Okay.
To decide whether to go ahead. And I said, you couldn't do it in that length.
And this is the mid-90s now we're talking about.
Mid-90s, 93, 94. And he stood outside there and his lovely technology wouldn't work. His filming and everything. He couldn't show anything. And Tony Colva's son took a photograph of the design of the course, the lines. And he spoke to the lines. And he persuaded me that he was the man, he could do the job.
I see.
And he did a fantastic job. Just to say one thing on it, I remember going down the new fifth. There was no grass, but I was excited by what I could see. Perhaps we shouldn't be going on until the modern situation, but then I think everything he did excited me. The 7 new sand-based greens and the bunkering. The members decided, look, you should go and do the bunkering in the same style for all the other 11 clay-based greens, because that won't disturb play too much. They can be done quickly.
Okay.
And that was what was done.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're only getting around now to doing anything else, but it was exciting. It really was. He was a bit of a genius, an artist. If you take it that the 2 par 5s were to be the 14th and the 16th, the 14th, when he went down to the old 18th green, which is, we play it as a winter green, right beside the first fairway, dangerous, can't do it. And on the spot, redesigned to the 14th hole we have now, our index 1. The 16th, as you know, is our signature hole. Mm-hmm. That was to go on into the trees, but they found that the water treatment works was in the trees farther in. Oh, and of course, you couldn't put the green in there.
Okay.
So he redesigned it as a par 4, and it's our signature hole. Absolutely. Magnificent hole. But he had that ability and vision.
Okay.
I walked the course with him when he went to do the bunkering, and he would walk down the fairway. He said, well, first thing is we have to move the bunkers away from the putting surface so as not to have sandburn. And then the next thing was he'd walk down the fairway and he'd say, where would the average drive be? And he'd be standing on a spot on the fairway. He'd say, would it be around here? And he said, oh, yeah, about that. Yeah. And if we were playing up the green, what would we play? Would we play a 5-iron or 4-iron maybe? Yeah, that's what we do. Well, then we have to bring the bunkers in a little bit more. If you're only playing a 5-iron to this hole, well, then the bunkering has to be. So it was a dream, really, and just fantastic.
Okay,
and we have, Tullamore Golf Club has, earned its position as a you know, a course,
premium course, yeah, top 25 parkland in the country now, thankfully, absolutely.
Design.
And looking back then, I mean, you know, you were mentioning to me earlier off camera that, so basically in coming up in very, very shortly, you'll be 70 years a member of Tullamore Golf Club, which is some achievement, Leonard.
Yeah.
Of those 70 years looking back, what would be the moment, or what would be your highlight from those 70 years?
Well, I mean, one of them has to be that the excitement of those new greens, that new design. And it really was exciting, and such a change from what had been there. If you go back, it's very hard. The original, you know, where I say the beluga grass, you could be temperamental as a youngster, and I let fly with the golf club one time. It took me a long time to find it. Handicapping was different then, you know. It was a straightforward cut. You had a handicap.
Okay.
So when I got chopped, the controversy, I suppose, I would remember is that obviously juniors, students, weren't allowed to play in such certain competitions. So that's fair enough. But they weren't allowed to play in any. Mm-hmm. And then there was a change made, and they were allowed to play. Well, there was a row. John Rafter, who would be a cousin of Paul Rafter, who's here now, Dennis Lumley took his entry as competition secretary, and he played, and he had the best score. And of course, there was a row afterwards. They wouldn't give him the prize, so Dennis resigned.
Oh dear.
Give him his due. Then they allowed everybody to play, and I know I won the Garda Cup, and
well done.
That was grand. And 3 years later, I had the best score by far, and technically I won it again. But they wouldn't give it to me because I was a student. And a certain gentleman, a well-known gentleman, I can mention his name, Paddy Cleary, he was a great character. Paddy got the cup anyway, and he was down at G.N. Walsh's to have it engraved at 9 o'clock the next morning to make sure he would take it back up. So they gave me a fiver and cut my handicap 4 shots.
Oh, very good. Okay,
so
proper
those
order.
are the small things that you remember from the time.
Very good.
Which was great to be able to play on the senior cup team and then to play for Offaly, you know, it was an honour.
Okay, very good. Leonard, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.